On today's episode, I have Julie Coleman joining me. We're talking about human social responsibility and how you can look to give back from a business perspective and on a personal level in 2021. This is an episode you want to tune in for. Julie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Lindsay. I'm excited.
Yeah, we've had the opportunity of featuring you at one of our previous A to Z BizLink events. However, I'm sure there's probably a couple people in the business community that are unfamiliar with you. So for those that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you before, would you mind just providing a little bit of background as far as who you are and what you do in our community?
No, totally. So I'll start chronologically, I guess. A little bit about me. So I'm Julie Coleman, and I am a solopreneur. I have my own community engagement consulting company called Julie Coleman Consulting. And early in my career, so I'm a Midwest girl from Kansas originally. And early on in my career, my education was in public relations. And then immediately I went to work for the nonprofit sector in Kansas. I worked for the United Way and the Red Cross. And it was a great experience. And then that parlayed when I moved out to Arizona to be in the corporate, the business sector. And I've had a tie, like there's this common thread of I'm connected to nonprofits in every role that I've held in like the past 20 years. And so having worked in the nonprofit sector and all that experience that garnered me, I feel like I'm just perfectly poised to help clients now. And when I made that transition to the business sector out here in Arizona, I worked for a variety of industries. I worked for the utility industry. I worked for a multi-level marketing company. I worked for the airline. And it's just been awesome. And the work that I did in that space was around philanthropy, community engagement, giving back, employee volunteerism, cause marketing, helping employees be strategically placed on a board. And then I even worked in human resources, like in employee engagement and continuous improvement. So all of that just like bundled up, it's been an interesting ride, and I'm so grateful. I mean, it's awesome. And so now what I do is I work with clients and I work with businesses and individuals and families, and I'm helping them on their social impact journey. So whether they're getting started or whether they might be stuck or whether they're curious, I'm helping them challenge the status quo and get involved, whatever that journey looks like for them. And then I'm also working with the nonprofit sector and lending my expertise and guidance in helping them develop and cultivate sustainable relationships with their business partners, their funders.
There was one phrase in there that I absolutely love. You are helping them challenge the status quo, which is part of the A to Z BizLink mission. And that's why there is so much alignment between what you're doing and what we're doing. You're the go-to resource for human social responsibility. You had mentioned that you're doing it both on the personal and professional side. And I think that's something that really helps you to stand out in the crowd. There have been a number of individuals or consulting groups that help corporations. However, I think it's really cool that you're looking at it from an individual level. And having your background, somebody that's been in corporate America, you understand what it's like to sit in their shoes and, trying to provide messaging to the right team members.
Yeah.
I know that's really impactful. So I'd love to dive into human social responsibility. I think people are fairly familiar with that, or maybe they know of corporate social responsibility.
Yes.
But what are you seeing as far as just trends as it relates to that these days?
Oh God. Well, maybe I ought to clarify too, just to make sure everyone, we're all on the same page. So human social responsibility, it's a term I coined. It's sort of that umbrella term, like you referenced. So people might have heard about corporate social responsibility, corporate citizenship. And then, so it's that umbrella bringing together the individual philanthropy with the corporate, because the two aren't mutually exclusive. I mean, at the heart of every business are its people. So people are driving everything. And there's just so many parallels and commonalities between the two that it's really difficult for me, and I don't want to differentiate between the two. So that's sort of the term. When I'm saying that, it really applies. And if we're talking and there's something that I think applies more to individuals than businesses or vice versa, I'll totally call that out. But I would say, gosh, people, it's been a mix. When you're asking about what I'm seeing, it's been a mix. So there's been some regression and some pulling back by companies. And what I would say to that is, please don't. Everyone has something to offer. Every person, every business. You don't have to have a big checkbook. You don't have to have a checkbook at all. It doesn't take a ton of time. But now more than ever, just in these very unique times that we're at, it's just so imperative. And so I cheerlead people and businesses to please don't pull back. You can adjust, and I totally get that, but please don't not participate. So that's sort of my plea. And then on the flip side, you've seen other people step up. So it's been kind of a mix, and everyone is just kind of in their own place and in their own journey. But I would just ask them, if you're doing something, is there a way you can do more? And if you're hesitant and you're kind of wanting to pull back, please reconsider. Maybe find a different way. I think people are really looking, especially in the business sector, Lindsay, what I'm seeing is they look at their assets, which that's something that I always have businesses do. So, hold up that mirror, look at what assets you have. Your human capital, again, starts with the people. You have a brand, you have a network. So again, it may not be all those tangible, like the monetary support, but you have things that you can offer. And so that's what I'm seeing businesses do, is really utilize leverage, that forward momentum of their assets. There's even been companies that have redeployed some of their normal community investment. So let me give you an example. So there is Colgate Palmolive, and I know they're a big company, and so I don't ever encourage businesses, no matter what you are, to feel you have to emulate that. But this is just simply an example of that I'm trying to paint that picture. So they go out and they have mobile dental vans that go out to at-risk communities, and they teach kids how to brush their teeth properly. And so when the pandemic hit, they ceased doing that because it was no longer safe to do that, but they redeployed those dental vans, and Colgate created bars of soap that were actually unbranded. It was just called hand soap, and on the back of the label, it has steps for how to properly wash your hands. And so they redeployed those vans to take hygiene kits, including the soap, out to communities. So again, it's kind of looking at what assets you have and can you still utilize them, but maybe in a different way.
I always love to hear examples of what other businesses are doing.
Yeah.
And I know not everybody has the budget to
Right.
do really cool stuff like that, but even starting small, I think, is a good starting point. So, on that same
Yeah.
point, what is the why? What are the benefits of actually putting together, one of these plans around corporate social responsibility or human social responsibility?
So how much time do we have, Lindsay? Can we have like part 1, 2, 3? I mean, it's like I get jazzed and excited, and you'll have to rein me in potentially. So I apologize. There's so many whys. I'll just off the top of my head, there's no shortage. First of all, plain and simple, it's the right thing to do. I'm a believer. We as people and as businesses, we have an obligation and an opportunity to invest and to give back, whatever that looks like. And so when you're an individual and you also work for a business, you've got an opportunity for dual impact. So the 1-2 punch of goodness, I say. So there's that. The other thing I would mention is like nearly 75% of people work for small to mid-sized businesses in the US. And so they're that fabric of the community. And so when we all rise, we rise. When we all are challenged, I see this remarkable stepping in and wanting to help. And so there's just that relational component that is absolutely key. They're your neighbor. Your business is your neighbor. They're the ones who donate to the Little League. Those are the parents that frequent your restaurant if you're making contributions. So the two are just stitched so tightly. And then I would say human social responsibility, I tell folks, is a powerful way to lead from wherever you're sitting. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter where you are. It's a way to lead. And I would challenge folks and encourage them to do it. There's the benefit for businesses of employee attraction and retention. It's a differentiating factor. For them, it's a way to deepen relationships, both personally and professionally. You'll probably encounter folks with different perspectives, which I think is awesome, that you may not have encountered before, and build relationships. So those are just a couple of things, but there's a myriad of why and of benefits that go along with it.
Yeah, and I love the human element, right? Like focusing on the individual, because let's be honest, not every business believes in CSR or really has a great action plan in place.
Yep.
But as individuals, we can step up and do more. So including that in your business plan, I think I mean, right now people are writing their personal and professional plans for 2021. And
Excellent.
a great thing to include in that would be, your commitment to the community and what that will look like. So, any ideas as people are putting together that
Yeah.
plan, their personal and professional plan, what ideas do you have for including in there?
Gosh, again, no shortage. So bear with me as I just share my thoughts. I couldn't agree with you more. First of all, something that I tell people, whether I work with them in a professional capacity or not, don't underestimate what you have to offer. People are really self-critical and they're like, oh, I can't do that, or I don't, what do I have to offer? It's like, oh my gosh, you have so much. So shift that mindset first and foremost. The other thing that we kind of get in our own way, and I have clients who do this, they're like, oh, I'm going to fail. I'm not, this isn't going to work. And so what I tell people out of the gate is, no fear of failure. Check that at the door. Don't even keep it top of mind. But hold yourself accountable. Hold your business accountable, absolutely. But fear of failure, no way. And so the way to start is to be strategic and thoughtful. When you are those things, when you are intentional, you're going to have a greater impact. And then start with your why. And again, this is all applying to both individuals and businesses. So really reflect is, why am I here? What is my purpose? And then that purpose mindset, once you're starting to adopt it and live it and breathe it, it really shifts from a me to a we and that collective impact. And we're all working towards something. So it's that 2 + 2 = 5 mentality. And then once you've got your why, that North Star, your purpose, I have businesses and individuals think about your core values. What are those things that are who you are? They're essential. And once you know that, those guide your decisions, personally or professionally. You're going to weave it into all of the work that you do. I would say, you talked about corporate social responsibility. And you're right, not all businesses do it. Do I believe they should? Absolutely. Is that going to look different for every business? By golly, it is. It's a journey. And so I do believe you should do it. Customers, employees are going to start pressuring you if they haven't to start doing something. But please don't make it a bolt-on. It's not a program. I don't like calling CSR a program. It's how you conduct business. So that's just a mindset shift as well. And then define community. So everything is about people and it's about community. So how do you define community? Is community your neighborhood? Is it a certain geography, regionally, if you're a business? Is it a certain demographic? So what is community mean to you? And that can evolve over time. All of this is extremely nimble, and it just evolves over time. And then once you've defined what community is, please listen to them. They know what's going on, and hear them and follow up accordingly and act accordingly. So listen to what the community is telling you. And then, I mentioned your assets. Identify what you personally and then business has as far as your assets. How can I help the most? How can my business help the most? Where should we play? Play to your strengths. Don't be something you're not. Employ a holistic approach. So it's that time, talent, treasure that I think folks hear about, if possible. So leverage the assets that you've got. Volunteerism, huge. And it doesn't matter to me if it's episodic, which can be like a one and done. It can be a committee. It can be a board. It can be pro bono, skills-based volunteerism. Nonprofits need the support. Community organizations need the support. Non-governmental organizations need the support. Carve your own path. I've said that. I use the word, everyone's a snowflake. We're all unique and we have something to offer, and don't shy away with that. And then, so after you've listened to your community, and learn, be a lifelong learner if possible, take it in, but then share what you're learning. And it's kind of like a cyclical thing that happens. Let's see. Other advice. Again, I'm so sorry. This is, again, no shortage of
No.
just advice and things to
Yeah.
think about.
Actually, I have a question for you though. You just had mentioned sharing, right? There's no shortage
Yes,
of knowledge and the
yes.
importance of sharing. Is there a right and a wrong way to share?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. I think you need to understand who you're sharing with. So, you need to know who you're speaking with. Are they open? Because if they are not, it could turn into a really elevated, emotionally charged, non-productive situation. So I think you have to get the lay of the land. And so the how depends on the who. So who drives the how you're going to do it? But I think you need to have a litmus. You need to have sort of an understanding of, are they wanting to do it? People love to join. I love to invite people to things, and so giving them the choice, do they want to learn about this or do they want to be a part of this? That's up to them. But the receptivity, you definitely have to start by, gauging the receptivity and interest.
A couple of things really stood out to me. The importance of aligning with your core values, both personally and professionally, with finding the right organizations to participate in, and then also finding ways to hold yourself accountable. That's a great thing to put in your business plan. So if you're going to do something on an annual basis, a
Yep.
quarterly, a monthly, weekly, whatever that looks like,
Yeah.
success is determined by, your specific, guidelines, but you have to put that down on a piece of paper. Otherwise, it likely won't happen.
Absolutely, ma'am. And when you're starting out, you raise an excellent point. Decide what your measures of success are going to be. Again, you can adopt them. They're flexible, they're nimble. But what are you trying to achieve? And then the other thing that I recommend to folks, especially in the individual space, is pay attention to how you're feeling as you're doing all of this, because that's a really telling thing. If you're engaging with a nonprofit and you're emotionally charged, that's in a great way, and you want to do more, that's important. If you are not finding that it's as rewarding of an opportunity, why is that? So just really holding up that mirror and paying attention as you're going through your journey really will tell you a lot in a non-formal way.
The one thing I would challenge our listeners to think about is, when you are selecting organizations to get involved with, really reflecting on that why. Does it align with you and what you're trying to achieve? Because oftentimes, we get asked to participate based on a lot of business related
Yes.
items. So it's
Yes.
like either our clients or friends of our clients that all want us to get involved, which is a good reason to start the conversation, but really focus in on, does it make sense? Does it align with who you are? And can you really serve and help out? Or is it just another thing to add to the list? And if it is, you probably won't be as impactful. It won't be as enjoyable. Probably not the best, utilization of your time and resources. So, yeah, you bring up some really great points. And I love that my my dog Baxter just loves to join in on this conversation too. Clearly, he cares about all this.
He wants to get back, Lindsay. Don't stifle him.
So, we had talked about getting involved with organizations. There are so many wonderful organizations to
Mhm.
become a part of. But
Mhm.
are you aware of any resources that kind of list them all out, or is like a good
Mhm.
starting point for just kind of, when you're in the beginning phase of trying to figure out which ones to get involved with, are there resources you would turn to?
Yes. So in the volunteer space, I'll give you a couple that I think are really good. And again, it covers a myriad of kinds of volunteer opportunities. So volunteermatch.org is a great one. Hands-on Greater Phoenix is an excellent one locally. Taproot, TAPROOT Foundation.org is great. They're huge in the skills-based pro bono volunteer area. Let's see. Board Source is a great, just if you're involved in a board, the right way, the best practices, things to think about is great. Blue Avocado is a reading resource that's great for folks. I would suggest, and then just talking to people is great. Just kind of taking that in. Um, and it's a mere, I really think taking it from a variety of sources is the best way. And it can feel overwhelming. I will tell you, it's like, oh my gosh, there's no shortage of need and there's no shortage of opportunities to activate and involve. But that's why if you start with really the reflection of knowing what your core values, what your purpose is, what really gets you going, why are you touched, where do you want to make a mark, that's where you start, and hone in. And you can there are opportunities on those websites to search for certain kinds of opportunities, and that'll help narrow it down.
Julie, it's clear that you're very passionate about what you do and you're so good and so well connected in this specific area. So curious, for those that are interested in learning more, are like what would it look like to work with you? How can you help them on a personal or professional level?
Oh my goodness. So no engagement, no client is the same. So, I really, reach out to me. I love to be a resource. And it's really finding out about the person or the family or the business. Tell me where you're at. What is making you want to reach out to me? And let's talk. And then I can give you initial thoughts as to here's what I think would be the next best step for you, or here's things to think about. But I walk alongside folks. I walk alongside businesses. And so I don't do cookie cutter. It's really, this is so personal, whether it's a business or not. Philanthropy and community involvement, human social responsibility, so personal. And so it's about building a relationship. I guess that's where it starts. Is I start to build a relationship with folks, whether or not I end up having a professional engagement with them or not. That's why I'm here. I tell people I'm a professional seed planter. I help people plant seeds, and I also plant seeds. I'm very fortunate that what I do is not any different than what my purpose is. They're absolutely synonymous. So that's what I do.
So for those individuals that do want to reach out, what's the best way for them to do that?
So two ways. I have a website, so juliecolemanconsulting.com, and then they could also just email me at juliecolemanconsulting@gmail.com. So feel free to reach out. Would love to meet.
Perfect. So as we look to wrap up today's conversation, is there anything else that you would love to leave our audience with as it relates to corporate social responsibility or human social responsibility?
Yes, I would say the closing thought is it takes time to realize social impact. So manage your own expectations, manage the leadership of your business. It takes time and diligence and tenacity, but you will get there and you will see great things that occur along the way. So just give yourself grace and give your business grace as well.
Wonderful. Well, Julie, thanks again for joining us today and for sharing so much great knowledge and insight in this space and for providing some of those great resources. Looking forward to continuing to collaborate with each other again in the new year, and so excited to see all the businesses that you continue to help.
Oh, thanks, Lindsay. I appreciate it.